I feel like life is pretty boring overall. And not only that, I don't mean it's just boring, rather, it's very anticlimactic, very awkward to actually go through, right? It's full of filler and stuff that you'd rather not spend time on, but you can't really skip past that. It's like life starts to feel like a bad TV show with the longest unskippable ads ever that are longer than the actual show. The ads, of course, being, all the filler, like going to work, groceries, self care, etc. The mundane stuff that needs to get done, right? So much of your lifetime spent just grinding through the ads until the enjoyable parts come. And then the show itself is an absolute mess too, because it's just super front loaded with events. It's like a show with 8 seasons, and they, for better or worse, just squeezed most of the plot into the first two. In a way, life starts off kind of amazing. The early years are front loaded with more excitement and novelty than the rest of your lifetime combined. When you're a kid, everything hits different. You're innocent, you're unfiltered, and everything is new to you. The smallest things feel like a major event. Every week feels like what a month feels now, right? You're free, kind of, or in a way, of past and future, free of the baggage of the past and future. Life has, you remember when you think back about, right? Life had this kind of brightness and intensity to it, a vibrantness. I don't know if that's a word, a carelessness that you don't even realize you're experiencing now, and your parents already don't anymore, right? And you're generally optimistic about the show and you want it to be great. And in another way, life already starts off brutally challenging, and there's just way too much happening at the same time, right? So that's why I said it's front loaded in all the good and bad ways, right? Every pain is the worst pain that you had so far. Every heartbreak is the worst that you've had so far. These are the years where most people accumulate the trauma that will haunt and sabotage them for the rest of their lives. And I guess it's kind of easy to romanticize, but childhood is a tough time. But, and that's kind of my point, it seemed worth the struggle because everything had so much more meaning and permanence. And because you were not aware yet about all the limitations and boundaries that you live in. And then as the seasons change, there will be this gradual shift where the density of the plot will decrease more and more, right? So things kind of get really exciting less often. Friend groups fade, interests are lost, new characters show up less often, the storyline gets more predictable, harder to fall for, right? Harder to get lost in it. And a lot of the time, they don't even go anywhere. It starts to feel like the show is padding for runtime. Like the writers ran out of ideas, but still had 4 seasons left on their contract. And you eventually realize some truths about this show that you can't quite unsee ever again. First of all, you're stuck watching it, whether you like it or not. Also, you aren't one of the main characters, not in the grand sense. There's no special arc waiting just for you, there's no destiny, no secret twist that will redeem everything. Most people won't get a redemption arc in their own story, right? We are not actually the good guys. And this show will leave most plot lines weirdly unended and without any real sense of closure or reward that makes it worthwhile. Most things just slowly fizzle out, slowly and painfully slowly die, get boring. And the whole show is like that in a way. It's like so many things just hit their peak early, and then you're just watching everything slowly decline season after season, right? Nothing ever hits as fresh again. And most people also don't become better versions of themselves as they age, right? It's also something that a lot of the times is just a decline. Most people get more tired. Most people get more rigid as they age, more stressed, right? Just more worn down in general, more done with, their show. More aware of everything that's wrong in the world, or even more ignorant, which I don't know what's the worst of the two fates, to be honest. You have less energy, everything is less novel to you, right? You have less possibility, less time that actually feels like time, right? Not like just responsibility, right? Moral limitations, society wise, physically, mentally, right? And you might not have been 100% healthy even as a kid, or fully capable, right? Fully able-bodied, but statistically, still this is probably the best it's gonna be, right? The peak of your physical storyline is probably already behind you before you even realize that you had one. And even if you did, it passes so fast. And then there's time, as the whole concept. Can't ever pause it, can't ever, rewind it. There are no second takes, nothing. And when you're a kid, a year feels like a lifetime. Every season feels distinct, right? You're making so many memories that your brain stretches time out. But as an adult, when most days look roughly the same, the brain stops recording. And entire months compress into like a week in terms of what's actually going on. And it's also just the fact that over time, as you live, you accumulate more and more baggage, more things that happened. So I don't know if everybody experiences like that, but I feel like as I'm getting older, it's not just about aging, it's just about that I'm experiencing more and more and more things. It's like my brain gets even more like unenthusiastic to remember anything that's not like really really important in a good or a bad way, right? It's like things just get shorter and less exciting as they repeat and repeat. Another birthday, and another, it's Christmas once again, soon, and it's this and that again. Can't wait for another year of roughly the same stuff, but slightly different and probably slightly worse overall, right? What will surprise you at this point? What things can you still use to keep yourself busy for another season, right? A lot of stuff happens in the beginning, but then as the show goes on, everything simply moves on without you. And you're spending the rest of the show, the rest of your life, kind of just entertaining yourself, making your own little side quests out of the leftover pieces, right? Trying to find some sort of subjective meaning in the fact that you're still there, that you haven't been written out of this show yet for some reason. Because you won't find true meaning in the outside world anyway. I honestly don't believe it. I honestly don't know how, especially right now. And then there's the point when the absurdity just becomes unavoidable. When you finally understand the true extent of the prison structure that humans have built for themselves. The work, the money, the competition, the constant need to perform, the way time is parceled out, right, into tasks and obligations that mostly don't matter, but we all have to stay busy to stay distracted enough. And I honestly think at this point that these people that brag about and defend their 60-hour work week online are only doing it because they don't want their favorite tool of distraction to lose its meaning. Because once you see it, you can't really unsee it again. As I said before, you can't put on the blinders anymore. You can't get immersed in the show the same way that you used to. And the distractions and the novelty, the things, the illusions that made life feel meaningful, they lose their power, and you realize it's all so, fragile, arbitrary, and repetitive. And the funny thing is, these realizations don't make the show stop. It just makes it harder to enjoy, right? The routines and the world around you, they continue, right? Things stay the same. There's no pause button, right? To let you process your epiphany. And the only thing that changes is that you now know the truth, right? And that like immersion and that aliveness, right? The innocence of the early seasons is just gone forever, and there is no reset button. You can never fully immerse yourself again, and so now you drift through this in between state, aware of how artificial everything is, aware of how little control you have, yet still forced to keep going. It's like being conscious during a dream, right? You know it isn't real, but you can't wake up either. And the worst part is realizing that this half awake state might be the rest of the show. So if anyone finds the pause button, please tell me.